Good morning. I am back. That's right. Man, I had to take a couple of days off for some pre-planned things, some pre-planned family stuff before we started getting this channel started. So I had to miss Thursday and I had to miss Friday. Sorry about that. I had to go down to Mexico and take care of some business. I know that sounds cryptic, right? I had to go down to Mexico and take care of some business. Yeah, that was like a really horrible Scarface / Rocky Balboa kind of like trying to be a mobster, and it just really failed in every single way. But nonetheless, I got back last night. You guys had rain in the DFW area, rain yesterday that apparently closed the airport for a little bit of time, which meant that my flight was just circling in the air. But it don't take much for DFW just to close down, right? There's the one thing like going through there. I saw the Aaron, my producer, about it. Like going through there, it's an American Airlines nighttime flight. I just feel like, man, it's just a crapshoot. Like at that point, if it's past 9 o'clock, man, you might want to start thinking about, is it worth driving to wherever your destination is? I just feel like sometimes I just feel like the nighttime flights we're not going to get there. But I did get home last night about 11:30-ish or 11:45. Got a little bit of a cat nap, but Unc is back. I'm here. Happy Monday to you guys. It is game week. Finally. We have something to talk about. Finally, this thing is here. I have been looking forward to this. You have been looking forward to it. Chris Nelson, my main man, has been looking forward to it. I see all you guys piling in the chat. I see El Presidente, Rodolfo, Jimmy G, Tony is in there, Buck Wild's in there, JD is in there, James who just came in there, Cotton, is in there as well. So welcome back, guys. It's game week. It's time for us to get this thing started, and I got a fun show for you playing. The great part about being in airports all of yesterday, and the great part about being in the air is I've had a lot of time to think, a whole lot of time between the vodka putting me to sleep, and then of course waking up and having time to go for it. I'm absolutely excited. I mean, I also see there's something. So let me get to this because I got so much to get into. First of all, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Anwar Richardson. Let me get the little introductions out of the way. Welcome to the Old Fashioned Sports Show. I'm super excited to be with you usually from 8 to 11. Now today, Sark is speaking. He's going to hit the podium today around 11 o'clock. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut this one a little bit short. You guys know I got that drive from Cedar Park to UT. I mean, I gotta hope there's no problems on the road. So I will cut this one a little bit short. But nonetheless, today I want you guys to get ready, because we're going to talk predictions. This is why today is going to be a fun show for everybody, because we're going to do a lot. We're going to do predictions. I'm going to give you my predictions. I'm going to get your predictions as well. You're going to be on the record. You're not going to be one of those people who, when December rolls around, if you don't put it in the prediction show today, I don't want to hear anything you have to say in December about what you thought the season could be or not be. That's it. Today's your day to be on the record. That's it. Anybody who comes in after today, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to shut them down. I'm going to have Aaron block them. I'm just going to say, block them, Aaron, on GP. That's not what we're going to do. So today you're going to get in your predictions so we can know who we are going forward. So we got our prediction show coming up in just a little bit of time. I'm quite honest with you. 9 o'clock, Overreaction Monday. Me and Ketch. Hopefully Ketch matches my energy, because I'm high energy. I got a chance to do some family time this weekend. So I'm high energy today, and it's a game week as well. So I'm super excited about all that. So that's what we got planned for today. And you guys, so the last thing I want to say, you guys are starting to see the vision. Beforehand, I told you guys as relates to the show, I said, man, Ketch and I've got a lot of good things planned, but I can't tell you. Can't tell you everything because you know what? I don't want everybody to steal our ideas before the whole thing comes to fruition. I don't want anyone to steal our ideas. I mean, hell, I'll hold back. But I was gonna say it. I was gonna say it, Aaron. But I decided to hold back on it. I decided to hold back on it. But people see certain things, and and you're like, hey, you guys are doing that. We want to do that as well. So yeah, you guys saw this morning the debut of a new show on here called Horns Up, right? That happened from 6:30 to 7:30 this morning. Really good shows. I saw all the guys on there. They did a fantastic job. Arizona Travis on there. Like everyone did a fantastic job. You got my show, obviously, from 8 to 11 on the days that we don't have press conferences. You've got Chad and Ketch from 12 to 3, House Divided. You've got my main man doing my football with friends, Alex Dunlap, from 3:30 to 5:30. Tonight is the weekly debut of the OB Outsiders. So they're going to start their show doing it multiple times a week in the evening time. Now you guys are getting to see what we were talking about. The things I couldn't tell you about before. Now you're starting to see like, oh, they're going to do a lot of shows and fill up a lot of time. They're going to have shows on every single day. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. 100%. Now the cat's out of the bag. Now you guys can absolutely see what it's going to be. And here's the thing, Kai. I know what you're saying. OB Live is going to be the new LHN. We're hoping that it will be better than LHN. We're hoping that this will be what you hoped LHN could be. Because I feel like LHN tried their best in certain things. And I don't want to use this to start this off negativity towards anyone at LHN and this and that. But this is exactly what you probably hope LHN would be, which is continuous talk, conversations, not necessarily just games from the past and flashbacks of who used to graduate from the school and all these kind of things. Like those things are cool. Those things are cute. But you want to have the daily talk, the daily coverage. And so now this is what we're going to do. We're going to give you the daily stuff. And so just so you know, there's not a whole lot of time slots left. You get what I'm saying? There's not a whole lot of time slots left that are out there. I mean, I know Ketch told me don't do this, but I'll do. Listen, you got a hell of an idea. You better hit us up now. If you want to get on the ground floor, you should do it now. I'm just going to tell you that. We got no shortage of people who are interested, but competition is good for all of us. So if you're interested, you've got something that you feel like is marketable, you better let us know. Let us know quickly. Hit me up, Anwar on Orangebloods.com. And clearly that we have started our Specs chat line. If there ever has been a sponsor for Unc, it is the Specs chat line. My goodness. Boy, y'all want me to do a remote from outside? Which store? I'll do a store every single day as long as you give me a hookup. Like, I'll be there for the Specs chat line. Are you serious? When Ketch talked to me about it a few weeks ago, and we started getting everything worked out, it's like Specs is going to be one of the partners. I was like, oh, you had me at hello. You guys know me. I used to do the Drunk Unk show, and clearly Drunk Unk's a play on words. So obviously it's not anything about alcoholism or anything to that effect. So yes, Specs chat line, you guys are in there, and this is going to be a great day for the Specs chat line because trust me, Specs, I'm going to make sure everyone's active and involved in the chat. All right, let me get this party started, everybody. As you guys can tell, super good mood. I'm super excited. It is game week. Bring on Rice. Let's get to Rice. I'm so excited about Rice. I'm not even thinking about Bama right now. I'm thinking about Bama, but I'm so excited to get the season started and for Rice to occur. So let me go ahead. I'm going to get the thing started, and I'm going to give you guys a little bit of tidbits of certain things that are right there, all right, before we get started, all right? But let you know so we're clear. The first part of this show is brought to you by my main man, Eric Sells Homes DFW. Listen, if you are looking for a home in the DFW area, you don't have to look any further than my main man, Eric Sells Homes DFW, Eric Torres. He is the guy with the master plan, whether you're looking to buy a home, when you're looking to sell a home, whatever it is. And look, man, this is a perfect time. School is back in session. The competition is not as fierce for buying portion or the selling portion, this and that. So like if you're a buyer, this is great. Someone's got a home on the market, they're going to try to move it because not too many people are trying to move during the school year, right? That's just how it is. Like we're settled in. I got my kids in, they're in school, like all that kind of stuff. So if you want to look for a home and get a good deal, Eric Torres, he's got you covered. And by the way, hit him up and tell him Anwar sent you, man. All right, so let me get to our opening drive. I want to give you guys a couple of little tidbits. And by the way, Aaron, do you have the current promo for Orangebloods available? Can you go ahead and work on that while I'm working on this? So we got a promo that we'll put on the screen. It's a great time to sign up. But I put a couple of little things. I'm going to give you some little tidbits of certain things that I had in my Sunday column that I think that you're going to enjoy. But certain tidbits that I'm just going to give you a couple of little nuggets to get your Monday, rather. I'm sorry. I've been going to different countries, different time zones, like all those kind of things. So please forgive me. Monday morning, what day is this? It's the 28th. Boy, I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited. But Monday morning, I'm going to give you guys a couple of little tidbits of information that I think you're going to enjoy. So ready to get into it, okay? So one of the things that you guys want is it's kind of like a little bit of a wrap up of camp. And today is going to be an interesting day because today Sark is going to reveal the depth chart. Right, usually right before press conferences, that's when that thing kind of comes out, and so we'll learn officially where everyone stands within the depth chart. We'll get that today. Okay, we should be getting that today. So what I was told heading into the weekend was that the plan was for Sark to have a conversation with the team. And then within that conversation on Sunday, he would tell them, this is where you are within the depth chart. This is what our expectations are of you going forward. And here's where you're going to fill in. And so we'll know officially where everybody stands. Like I said, with the next couple of hours, we'll have that thing there. What's going to happen? I can guarantee this is what's going to happen. We're going to get the depth chart. It's either going to be emailed in some sort of press notes, or they're going to hand it out to us when we get there to the press conference. And then there's going to be a race. And everyone's going to be on the race to Twitter to put out the depth chart. Like that's what's going to happen. I hope to be amongst the first, but if you're not first, you're last. Ricky Bobby. So that's what's going to happen, right? And so one of the things that the guys talked about on Horns Up that I wanted to make sure I just kind of address from some of my sourcing that I had from going into really over the weekend that I had in my column on Sunday. They talked about Malik Muhammad. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of insight of some things that I've heard as relates to him. Malik Muhammad, just so we're clear, is viewed to be that dude behind the scenes. Like, he's that guy. And I've been told that do not be surprised that at some point this season that he ends up supplanting some of the other people who are supposed to be in front of him. Do not be surprised if he goes ahead of a guy like a Ryan Watts when it's all said and done. Like, Malik Muhammad has been very, very impressive to the people behind the scenes. Sark has talked about him. So he's talked about him in those settings, but the people I have spoken to have said, like, this guy has hit the ground running. When you're looking for who could be this year's Kelvin Banks, and when that guy who comes in a little, and then kind of excels from day one as a freshman, Malik Muhammad is a guy that you have to keep your name on in this season. Like, he's doing everything. And again, when you hear about a guy, the easiest way to get the coaching staff's attention is to create turnovers. If you want to be a coach's best friend, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and especially as a quarterback, be a person that creates turnovers. They will love you. They will absolutely love you. They love it. They love Anthony Hill. Like, they love Anthony Hill because does Anthony Hill have everything down packed? No, not all of it. But does he have enough to affect plays where you say to them, when they say to themselves, that guy coming off the edge is something that we need? Like, if we just have this guy go ahead and blitz and attack the quarterback, That's exactly what we want. Like, yes. So I'm telling you, for my tidbits here, keep an eye on some little nuggets on a Monday morning. Keep your eye on Malik Muhammad. He's a guy that I'm being told behind the scenes they're really, really excited about. Another guy that shouldn't come as a surprise, but that person is going to be CJ Baxter. That's another person that I'm told that when it especially comes to depth chart stuff, CJ Baxter is another freshman that they're saying, I was told, listen, and everything, what I'm telling you guys is not things that are like, I'm not trying to like say brand new information where you haven't necessarily heard this before. I'm talking about a ribbon and bow to the conversations that we've been having, kind of the solidifying of it. CJ Baxter is a guy that I've been told, like, oh, he's that guy. He's the truth. Like Anwar, 100%. Everyone behind the scenes is fired up about him and what he's going to do. And so when it looks like when it comes to that battle, CJ Baxter and Jaden Blue, it looks like CJ Baxter has been a guy. At the end of the day, and let's be honest, and we just keep it real. Like we've heard a lot about CJ Baxter in the training camp. Hadn't heard as much about everybody else that he's competing against. And so it might be CJ Baxter time. Once we get past Jonathan Brooks, CJ Baxter is that guy that you look at and you say to yourself, okay, he's that guy. So I've heard a lot of good things about him over the weekend. Over the weekend while I was in Mexico. Seriously. Like this is what Unc does for you. Over the weekend while in Mexico, still trying to make calls. I don't know what my long distance bill is going to look like. I tried to do Wi-Fi calling, but I'm pretty sure I screwed that up. So there is that. But CJ Baxter is another guy. And then the other guy, from a freshman standpoint, again, should come as no surprise, will be Anthony Hill. He's another person that what I was told solidified that they like Anthony as a rusher. They really feel like he's a guy that can really bring the pressure, And again, sometimes you just, when you talk, what is it, that the acronym KISS? Keep it simple, stupid. Like sometimes you got to give things a life a kiss, and sometimes you got to tell a guy like, listen, I know you're just really good at this, so just do that. Just run here and go there, right? And we'll add on to it. You know what I'm saying? We'll build on for that. Like it's certain people that they just have that raw athleticism that you just make sure that they you just do these couple of things. And that's where he is right now. She's so good. He's so raw. And again, give him some time. He'll get the playbook down. Like those things will come. But if you are so good at doing a certain things, it's kind of like if you got a kid who plays basketball and he's just good at blocking shots and getting steals and getting rebounds, you tell yourself, like, he's got that part down. We'll work on the offense. But that heart, that hustle, those things are hard to teach. And that's kind of where it is Anthony Hill. Like the things that he has, like that, those things are just where it's at. So these are the three people that I'm told from just a freshman standpoint, a freshman point of view, that's what's going to happen. Kai, I see a question. We'll have a buy or sell segment coming up soon. So when you get a chance, all the questions that you may have, like, what happened, so that, put that in a buy or sell, okay? But Kai, I do hear it, but I don't want to slow it down, but I'll just put that in a buy or sell, and I promise you I'll get to that. Let me now get to the promo. I want to make sure you guys understand this. Go ahead and put that on the screen for me, Aaron. This is the current promo that we have here in Orangebloods. It is 60% off. 60% off right now for the next year. So annual subscription sale, 60% off of that thing. Using the promo code KICKOFF 2023. It's obviously for the new members. And here's the deal. This is why I think this is kind of a cool thing for people who don't understand Orangebloods and what that's about, and you like getting the stuff here. Like right here is good. You're going to get a lot of good information. You're going to get a lot of surface information. I don't say surface, but you're going to get a lot of good information. But we're going to give you a lot more things, but the behind the scenes, a lot more information behind the scenes that you're just not going to get here. And so if you want to go from just kind of being a casual observer to more of an insider, It's like you get like your fantasy football drafts. Like you can get on like the ESPN stuff that's for free, and then some of you may pay for like the roster watch because you want more detailed analysis. That's what that is. And the other good part is it's a great community. I don't think we emphasize this enough because it's not just like message board talking sports. Like, people talk about everything in life. Like I'm talking about anything in life you want to talk about as far as travel, as far as like recommendations, movies, like I mean, whatever, soccer, like whatever you're into, there's somebody that's there that you'll be able to connect with. And so it's a really good thing. And by the way, if you have a man in your life that really is a sports fan, I'm telling you, it's a great gift for him. He will absolutely love it. And listen, fellas, if you have a woman in your life and she's a diehard sports fan, buy that for her as well. Buy that for her as a gift. Like, get the flowers and this. It should be good. All right, listen. Let's go to a break. When we come back, it's prediction time. I want everybody, don't put it in yet. Don't put it in yet. Wait until it's time. Wait till it's time. And then when it's time, you need to think about what your season prediction is right now during this break. I'm talking about regular season. And then when I want us to flood the chats, there's nearly 200 of you. I need you to be on record. Get ready. It's time. It's Monday before the regular season. It is time for predictions. We're going to do prediction time. I'll be right back.
Corey Redding, the linebacker from Galena Park, North Shore High School, USA Today rated him as the best high school defensive player in the nation. That's incredible. Today he verbally committed to play his college ball for Mack Brown and the Horns. He's the kind of defensive difference maker the Texans hadn't been able to get in years past, so it appears things are changing.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the most important recruiting wins in the history of the Texas program. Former five-star defensive end Corey Redding out of Galena Park, North Shore. To completely understand the significance of Redding's commitment, you have to understand the context surrounding the recruitment. Redding's recruitment occurred just 2 years after another five-star defensive end, David Warren, bypassed the Longhorns in favor of Florida State. New Texas head coach Mack Brown was trying to put the finishing touches on a #1 ranked recruiting class, but he had to overcome the stigma that great defensive players didn't go to Texas and that the Longhorns couldn't go into the Houston area and land a truly elite player that didn't play his football in the suburbs. It wasn't going to be easy for the Longhorns, as Redding's top three included Colorado and Arizona, with the Wildcats having a big edge with Corey's brother Chris already in the Arizona program, which had his mom wanting both players to play their college careers together. Colorado was actually viewed as a potential party spoiler, but while Redding was on his official visit to Boulder, CU head coach Rick Neuheisel took the Washington job. And that basically eliminated the Buffs. That left Arizona and Texas to duke it out. And when push came to shove, Redding couldn't leave the Lone Star State. Moments before he announced his decision, Redding informed his mom that he was selecting the Longhorns. He told her, quote, "I'm a Texas boy. I want to go to college in Texas, marry a Texas woman, and have Texas babies," while she broke down in tears at the news. Moments later, he told the world the news.
Corey Redding, in 1998-99 season, will be attending the University of Texas.
Redding's commitment sent shockwaves throughout the recruiting landscape as Mack Brown's dominance in recruiting in Texas began that day and rarely slowed down for the next decade and a half. The Longhorns finished with the #1 overall recruiting class in 1999, with the USA Today's Defensive Player of the Year representing the cherry on top of a very tasty sundae.
Spent time with him and myself, and I was like, I want you to put it on my mind the next morning when I wake up. When I woke up, my hands was holding up that hook'em sign.
All right. See, you guys have kept talking about, man, why does we have the same breaks and the same intros and Sam Ellinger and all these other guys? And look, we were on it. And so, yes, Jeff Ketchum went into the archives and he found, to his credit, he had tons of things on VHS that he got converted into digital. And so now in these breaks, you're going to have way more that kind of content that's in there. Okay, do me a couple of favors. The first one is nearly 200 of you guys are in here. And so go ahead and please just hit like on the channel. Just go ahead and pound that for me. That'd be great. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. All right, guys. It is absolutely prediction time. It is 100% prediction time. All right. This is the thing about predictions. Okay. I know you guys are excited about it, but here's the thing about predictions. Like you ever have people in your life that will always tell you they said something where you know they didn't say it? We all had these people that say, man, to such and such, man, oh yeah, man, I said that a while ago. What? You never said that. Like, no, I told you that was going to happen. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. We never had that conversation. These people who will go and tell you something after the fact and act like, oh yeah, I saw that coming. Well, we know they never saw that coming. Okay. This is why I like predictions. And this is why every year when I do predictions, I always am on the record. And I will tell you this, I'm one of the few people that after the season goes back and tells everybody where I was right, where I was wrong in my predictions. I always put them in my columns. And I go after the season, I'm like, and I will tell you, like, I was right here and I was wrong here. It's like recruiting. The thing, that frustrates me about recruiting writers? Recruiting writers, almost like draft people, right? They always tell you about their wins. They always tell you about, oh man, I found this person. I recruited, I thought this person I was high on this list, right? And they just always tell you the wins. And they never tell you about the losses. You never hear about the losses. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. This is what I need you guys to do. Some of you guys did it earlier, but there's two things I need you to do. And everybody participates in this. Please, everybody participates in the Specs chat line right now, okay? So what I need you to do is I need you to put your prediction in, but two, I need you to be honest, and I need you to screenshot your prediction. And you need to save that for down the line. Because if you predict 12-0, okay, I want you to screenshot that so you can show me that you had a 12-0 prediction, and I'm going to know I wore this on the show. I'm going to know exactly what I wore, and I'm going to know that you guys, this is what you predicted. So right now, in our Specs chat line, go ahead and give me your season predictions. Because I'm going to give you what mine is in a second, but go ahead, everybody who's right now, if you're willing and able, as I would say, everyone under the sound of my voice, go ahead and give me your season prediction, regular season. I don't want you to go too far in the postseason. Just give me your regular season prediction. Now, if you've got something else, that's fine. But, we should do I can't do a contest because if all you got, you might have 100 people that get the correct ones. I can't do that. But go ahead and flood the Specs chat line right now with your predictions. Aaron, I saw there's a super chat that just came in, so I want to get in there. I see a lot of 10s and 2s. I see some 9s and 3s. Hector, you said 9 and 2. I'm assuming, Hector, I need you to go ahead and change that for me. It's Hector Ostex. Change that for me, Hector. I want you to be on right there. Unless you're predicting that there's going to be a game that gets canceled, and I don't think that's what you're doing. Tex Boy, he goes 12-0. Bama will be the closest game. Okay, so right now, I've got Tex Boy at 12-0. I've got Zachary at 12-0. And I also know El Presidente has been a 12-0 person as well. I'm going to go through here to see if I missed any other 12-0. Brett Barry is down for 12-0. Mark Ruiz is 12-0. Allen is 12-0. Chris Nelson went 15-0. Okay, Chris. All right, you drinking a lot. Justin has gone 12-0 as well. Zach has gone 15-0 so far. I'm just going back through it. Good morning, Chris Bennett. I saw you were in here a little bit earlier. Buck Wild, your host. If I go to the Temple location, I appreciate you. 15-0 for Chris Nelson, and 2 of those. Jimmy D had 12. I just want to go to some of these 12-0s. All right, so Alan put those things in there. Now, the most interesting of all these things is Jay Lee puts in 8-4. I think Jay Lee is a Longhorn person, so I'm really curious about that, Jay Lee. If you can actually get into an explanation of that, get flood the specs chat line. I want to make sure that's there. But Jay Lee, by the way, if you're saying 8-4 and this thing comes anything close to 8-4, God help us all. May He have mercy on your soul. And by the way, no one will like you. Jay, you may be the most honest person, and your prediction, if it comes true, it's going to be like that person that's the doomsday guy. Like you might, if you are correct, and God help us all if you are, because I don't want that. I want to cover. I do not want to do it all season with cover after an 8-4 season. Just don't want to do that. But all right, keep getting these things in here. I want you guys to be on the record. I'm going to start getting into some of my predictions for the upcoming season. I'm going to go to where I am. And listen, you keep getting that in there. You super chat it here and there. Like absolutely, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to address as many of those things as possible. So I want to tell you where I'm at as relates to this season. And where I'm going as relates to the season. And the Kool-Aid always pours hard in the off season. It does, boy. The Kool-Aid's like happy hour, isn't it? Happy hour, by the way, is the thing for us old people that we love the most. Stream rolling with another 12-0. My goodness, I feel like this. If I had a fast voice, I could be an auctioneer. Like, give me another 12-0. Like, that's exactly what you're doing. Okay, Jay Lee goes ahead and clarifies. Go ahead, Jay Lee. Go ahead in the super chat, Aaron. Jay Lee goes ahead and says, Ketchum's 10 thoughts from yesterday explain his 9-3. I agree. I'm just adding an additional loss because we are Texas. Jay Lee, who did this to you? Who did this to you? Listen. I know bad things happen in life. I do, Jay. I get it. I always joke. I've been married a few times. Like, I understand. But at some point, you have to have optimism, Jay. Like, I get it. Okay, so here's where you're at, Jay. I get, you know what? I think bad things always happen. But you don't want to walk around life, Jay, expecting the worst to happen. You want to walk around life expecting good things to happen. I'm not trying to be your Joel Osteen because it's a Monday, but if you need me, I can go some motivation for you, Jay. Listen, Jay, you can't walk forward while looking backwards. The only way for you to walk forward is that you kind of keep your head straight, because if you're looking backwards, you're going to miss the things that you might stumble across, okay? So you got to always look forward to the future. There's enough good things that have happened this offseason, Jay, and I'm going to get into that within my predictions, where I think you have the reasons to be optimistic. Now, Jay, I get it. Bad things have happened. Something always bad happens. Yes, it's been Texas. I get it. You haven't won a Big 12 championship in 2009. Why believe now? But Jay, if you're saying 8-4, then man, we might as well give up today. Like, what are we going? Why are we doing this, Jay? Like, this is so, Jay. I'm going to explain to you why I'm going to be a little bit more optimistic than you. And listen, if you're a person that is going, because some people are expecting the worst but hoping for the best, Jay, if you are expecting the worst but hoping for the best, then I'm okay with that. But sometimes, listen, and I'll just go as an example. TCU happened last year, Jay. TCU happens like that. Jay, you go ahead and put the other one up, Aaron. TCU happened last year. We've seen Baylor rise from the ashes. We've seen Oklahoma State rise from the ashes. And I know, Jay Lee, nobody hopes that you're wrong. Good. Well, good, Jay. I hope you're wrong. Everybody in the chat, in the specs chat, they hope that you're wrong. And listen, there's reasons why I think you'll be wrong, but for a good reason. Because again, if you're just joining the show, I'm asking everybody to put your predictions in the chat line right now. I need you to go ahead and flood it, screenshot it, and save it for another day. So when we come back in December, Well, I'll find it, and I'll find ways to maybe get you on screen or something like that. Have your stuff, your predictions up there. Might do like a whole just big collage of it. You have to send it to me. I'll work on it. Aaron's got a lot of things to do, and I'll figure it out. My kids can probably do it a lot faster than me if I'm just being quite honest with you. Okay, well, listen. Let me tell you what my prediction is, Jay, and for everybody else that's in there. And I listen. 12-0 sounds great. 12-0 to me is a bridge too far. I would love to say that. I would love to say that. But that requires just me really stretching myself out there for an undefeated season. Whew. I can put scenarios in my head where that could happen, and I can rationally say this is what's going to happen. I could get that. But I think 12-0, that's a little bit tougher for me. 11-1, I get that one. That one, I understand. You're giving yourself either a Bama loss or a Big 12 loss, and you're going at it from that vantage point. And I get 11-1 where you guys are coming from 11-1 vantage point. You're allowing for one thing to happen, but you're close to the 12-0. But you're just telling yourself, all right, there's one hiccup that's in there. I get you on 11-1, not going to shout you down for the 11-1 crew. Not going to shout down the 12-0 crew. Not going to shout down the 11-1 crew. My party is going to be in the 10-2 party. That's my prediction for the upcoming season. That's what I'll be on record for. I will be the person that they'll take a screen recording of the video. People will bookmark it, and they're going to come back at the end of the season, and this is what it's going to be. And everything I say now will become the highlight, and that's fine. But I'm on the record. I'm going to go ahead and say it. 10-2. I'm going to give you my list of reasons why I believe this team is going to be 10-2. Buck Wild, let me go ahead and get to you as well. Go ahead and get your thing on there. Buck Wild says the coaches showed the Yormark video to the team at the Saturday scrimmage. They were motivated. Now they are pissed off. 11-1. Yormark cries as we win. Yeah. First of all, the coaches didn't have to show the kids that. I mean, these kids are on social media. The kids knew. Trust me, Buck Wild. The kids knew about what Yormark said before the coaches did. These guys know. They live on this thing. They know how to do all this stuff. So I get all that. But I think, Buck Wild, the thing that you're saying, because I wasn't here last week. So let me go ahead and say some of the quiet things I like. I tweeted this thing out there. And I know I got a lot of tech fans that were mad at me for tweeting this thing out. But I still say there were no lies detected. Because at the end of the day, if someone's willing to say that out loud and in public, what are they saying behind the scenes? What are they saying behind closed doors? That's the question to me. It's not necessarily what he said out there, what people say when they're at home. You know what I'm saying? Like when you know someone is like maybe doesn't like you and you hear a little bit of it, of maybe what's said at work, and you say to yourself, what do they say about me when they go home? Because that's what is really raw and unfiltered, when you're really comfortable around your people. And you know what I'm saying? Like, we all have our corporate persona sometimes that we put on. And then they have the thing that now we can relax, have a couple of drinks or whatever, just be who we are, and just say like, man, that mother. And so my question is, what's Yormark telling people behind the scenes? And here's the thing. If that's the edict that I want Texas to lose, what's that mean for the officials this season? You think, I mean, the question is, and because Yormark said this in public, it makes you wonder, okay, you don't want to say things like the fix is in, but he opens the door for that thought process. He opens the door for that conversation to be had when those conversations are being said. So here's the problem with what you have, Buck Wild. Here's the problem with at your prediction right now is, if we know Yormark is against Texas, And we know he doesn't want them to win. And I told you guys before that, and if you heard my show, I have told you guys before he even uttered that, I've told you guys continuously on my show. I said the one thing Brett Yormark does not want to do, he does not want to be in Arlington and to have to give over the Big 12 championship trophy to the University of Texas. I said that way before last week. I've told you guys, I know how this thing is how they're thinking. So the problem with what you have, Buck Wild, is if you think you got screwed last year on some no calls, what do you think is going to happen this year? Oh, you shouldn't. I don't know. You shouldn't say things like that. No, I'm going to say it. He said it. Let me say it. So my problem with 11-1 is now I have to, Buck Wild, allow myself to live in a universe where I'm ignoring that there's going to be certain things working against Texas in this season. Like I've got to live in a world where I have to just believe that he said that, but no one else feels that. No one else feels that way. No one else in the Big 12 office feels that way. None of the Big 12 officials feel that way. Nobody feels anything like that. If you tell me Texas goes to an opponent's stadium and certain things ain't working on the Texas locker room, on the Texas side, there's no AC, it's too cold, like whatever, I would not be surprised 100%. Someone say, man, that you guys said at LSU, I'll believe that to be true. But if you tell me Texas doesn't have an air-conditioned locker room in every single road game, I would say that sounds about right. If you tell me Texas is on the bad side of most calls this season, I would say that sounds about right. They were on the bad side of a lot of calls last year. Had a couple of games where they don't get any penalties called against opposing team. So that's my problem with 11-1, 12-0. You're actually expecting everything to fall in your favor and for the Big 12 to allow everything to fall in your favor. I just don't see that scenario. I just don't. I would love to be wrong. But when the leader says, I want this program to lose, well, how bad does he want this program to lose is the question. That's what we don't know. That's the thing he's not saying out loud. Those are the conversations that are being had behind closed doors. And so because those conversations be having closed doors, and now it requires a degree of trust, which can't say I necessarily have going into the season. I got to scratch 11-1. I got to scratch 12-0 off. I'm going to go 10-2. Now, Ketch has got 9-3, and we're going to talk about that when he gets on the show, and he'll break down why that is and why he believes those certain things. But I want to factor that stuff in. I got to factor that thing in. This is what it is, and it sucks. It doesn't have to be that way. And that's the thing about Yormark. And let me just say this. I didn't get a chance to say this last week, but I'll say this. I have been you've followed me, you've listened to me for a while. I have been, if there's been anybody who has been a Yormark fan, it's been me. I mean, the first time I interviewed him, the first question when he first got on the job, when I saw Big 12 Media Days, I joked with him. I was like, hey, do you want me to greet you as, Commissioner Yormark, or do you prefer this? Because he used to work for Rock Nation, right? He laughed. He thought it was funny. We had a good relationship, right? And I thought, from what I always believed, that, listen, if Yormark was in charge, it'd be a good chance that maybe he could have made this decision for Texas a little bit more difficult. I mean, think about it. If he adds in these programs and Big 12 is the power conference that they are now, and they're one of the relevant of the three, who knows? I mean, I'm not saying it happens, but at least it would have made the question or the conversation a little bit more difficult. And I praise this guy. And I'm like, man, this guy, look what he's being able to do. And I praise him for being able to save this conference. He was able to get the TV deal before anyone else. Like, not everyone else is on the outside. A lot of other teams are looking at conferences, the Pac-4, ACC. Like, these teams are conferences on the outside looking in. That's because of Yormark. So I praise this guy, and I really thought highly of him until what he said. And then I was like, oh, it's always that reminder. Like, sometimes we think rich people are really smart, and they're not really smart. They're just really good at a couple of things, and then sometimes they're really fortunate. Then you realize there's some dumb parts of them, And that was a dumb part of your mark that I didn't see coming. But I was like, oh, you aren't that genius that I thought you were. You did that. You played to the tech crowd and you revealed yourself. But you let people speak long enough, they eventually reveal who they are. And that's what your mark did. Got it. So just know that going in. But let me tell you why I'm excited about 10-2. Let me tell you the reasons why I believe 10-2 is on their realistic for Texas. And by the way, feel free to put your comments in the chat as well, because I want to make sure that you get your predictions down, because I want to make sure you get into that. So I'll start with the easy reasons why I believe Texas can go 10-2. Let's just start. Let's just go down the list. I think if you're Steve Sarkisian, you've got the quarterback that you want, and you've got you've got a couple of things that you haven't had. You've got a 2-year starter at QB, which is something that he hasn't had since he's been here at Texas. When you think about, he's had Casey, then he had Hudson, and then now he's been able to say, okay, I've got a guy who's been a 2-year starter at quarterback. So yeah, I like that for them. And having Quinn Ewers, as we've talked about all season long, it being a guy that is his whole transformation, everything that he's been able to do, he's a guy that I look at and I'm saying to myself, okay, 2-year starting quarterback, this is the time. This is for the time for the light bulb to go off. So I look at that and I say to myself, you got the quarterback that you need. You got the quarterback I think is good enough to lead this team to a Big 12 championship game. And by the way, I have 10-2, and I'll get into, I believe, is going to be the Big 12 champion. So you give me Quinn Ewers, makes all the sense in the world. And you got an offensive line that's 8 deep, right? So when you got an offensive line that's 8 deep, and hello, hold on. Well, I say a super chat to interrupt anything I got to say in the 49, a 50 spot on a Monday morning in the Specs chat line. Aaron, we'll shut it down. I'll get back to my thoughts in a second. Let's go ahead and get is this BLK crypto? I don't know what BLK stands for. It's a sticker. Okay. No, go ahead and put that. Okay, so that's okay. So I got it. I absolutely got it. That's kind of fun. You did that. And listen, BLK crypto. That's pretty funny. I gotta admit, that's pretty funny. You dropped the 50 spot on that. I don't know if you're still hungover, but if you got any other things that you want to put out there, BLK crypto, feel free. I don't know. I told you, Specs. I told you you're going to get most out of your money. You're going to have fun on the Specs chat line today. That's 50. That's a 50 spot on that. Appreciate that, BLK crypto. I appreciate that. Happy Monday to you. Anything else you want to say? Because I absolutely love that. Offensive line 8 deep. I talked about that. Here's what's interesting from the tight end room, right? Ja'Tavion Sanders, we all know who he is, certified bona fide. There's no question about that. We know Ja'Tavion, he's going to do what he's going to do. But here's the great thing about that. The guy that we actually heard a lot about leading up to the season was Gunnar Helm. Now, I'm not saying Gunnar Helm is going to be somebody that's going to overtake Ja'Tavion Sanders. Like, there's no craziness that's upon me. And I was fairly sober last night, by the time I got home, thanks to all the flight delays. But nonetheless, knowing that you've got a kind of a 2 deep in that room, like, that's a very, very good thing. So, for me, I say if someone catches the flu and can't play, then all of a sudden you got a guy like Gunnar Helm that could come in. So now you start thinking about that. You start thinking about the receivers, obviously, with Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, and everybody else in that room. And of course, the Jordan Winningtons, Mr. Faithful, as far as that is concerned. And then the young guys, whether it's DeJounte Cooks, Ryan Niblets, DeAndre, like all those guys that are filling in, like, they've got dudes. Casey Kane, don't want to ignore him as well. They feel like they've got 8 guys that are there, 8 guys who are solid as far as that is concerned. On the defensive side of the ball, you've got the Byron Murphys and Tiandre Sweats. And I feel like they can fill the shoes of Keandre Coburn and Moro Jomo. But then you also have seen the rise of an Alfred Collins to be in the mix, Vernon Broughton that's in the mix as well. On the edge, you have Ethan Burke, you have Baron Sorrell, right? So you feel good about the edge guys and their ability to rush the quarterback. You've heard good things about this in the offseason. And then, of course, you have them going into this season. So you feel good about that talent level. Jalen Ford, obviously, like a rock. You know what I'm saying? Like a rock is Jalen Ford. So you feel good about what he's going to be able to do. You go ahead and add in Anthony Hill, and then you got some of the young guys. You still got Benda, but you still got some of the young guys that are coming up as well. So now you feel like, man, linebacker position, feel pretty strong about that. The cornerbacks, or man, we can spend the whole show just talking about the cornerbacks and really talking about the DBs in general. We can spend a whole show talking about everybody, whether it's the John A. Barons, the Ryan Watts of the world, the Gavin Holmes of the world. Obviously, Malik Muhammad is coming on strong, and I've told you guys that before. I like to start the show like Malik Muhammad is a guy that you buy his stock now. If there ever was one of those shows where they had the stock shows and the guys like yelling and stuff, and he's bald, so I guess I got that part covered, right? And he's yelling like, "If I get this stock, I'm blah blah blah," right? He hits a button. I've seen it. I don't know if the guy's still on, right? If I was a person, I would tell you, and I had a little button to push, I would tell you, buy Malik Muhammad stock right now because it's going to pay off for you in the future. Buy now, and it's going to pay off for you later, right? So yes, we're absolutely going to buy on the Malik Muhammad stuff. Jalen Catalon, already know about him, what he's able to do. Like he's come along. Ketch had something over the weekend when he talked to someone. Actually, it was last week when they talked about him being like a man in every area. And as far as leadership is concerned, as far as a person that's coming, like I thought anything you got out of Jalen Catalon was playing with house money. And now we know like what Jalen Catalon is going to do. And so you got Jalen Catalon that's coming along. And then, of course, you still got Jaron Thompson that's there. And you still got Derek Williams, who is knocking at the door. He's knocking. He's trying to get in. So you got Derek Williams, who's another guy that I would tell you, if you're looking for some stock to buy and you want to buy some stock low that's going to pay off later in the future, Derek Williams is another guy. Derek Williams to me is like buying land out in like Lago Vista. You buy it now, it's going to pay off for you in the future because as the thing kind of keeps growing, right? As everyone moves outside of Austin and looking for different places, they could realize like, oh snap, I could buy a house that's close to the lake, and I don't have to pay all these other prices, man. And so they have the access to the lake. I'm gonna go out to Lago Vista. That's who Derek Williams is to me. He's Lago Vista. He's my Lago Vista. Like you buy it now, and it's gonna pay off for you in the future. That's who Derek Williams is to me. Free real estate from advice from Unc. So there's that as well. The team is stacked. The team is loaded. 10-2 to me is absolutely on the table. And who had this comment where someone said they wanted to know why don't you go ahead and I'll put it up for you real quick, Aaron, so make it easier for you because I just saw it. Because BLK Crypto had already put down a 50 spot on a super chat, so you go ahead and get your question in outside of the emoji. But you do have a question. You go, what I want to ask is what makes you or anyone else think that all of a sudden Sark is going to become a great coach, one good enough to get to a 10 or 11 win season? Great question, BLK Crypto. Great question. So, BLK, I'll answer your question by this. Your question is valid because yes, when you look at Sark's resume, he hasn't gotten above 9. So what makes me believe that he can get higher than that? Well, let's start with this. if you want to go back to like, okay, the Washington, you to me, you do the best that you can at a Washington, and then you go from there, right? It's not like Washington. Washington's good now, but it is what it is. USC, we saw what started to happen. We saw what started to happen with USC, and then that thing gets cut short. So we never really know how that thing was going to finish. He's a guy that then gets a chance to go to Alabama, and then he gets a chance to learn and succeed under Nick Saban. Now, when I spoke to the people who, within the Alabama program, they will tell you that he did have an influence in Alabama. Clearly, it's Nick Saban's team, so let's not get crazy, right? But he did have a level of influence. It did have a level of coaching. Now, you talk about coming in here. What about Texas? Year one happens. Year two happens. What's there to be excited about? And I get it. BLK, I get it. In the building process sometimes, though, it's like this is how the sausage is made, right? This is how the sausage gets made sometimes. And sometimes it's not pretty. It's ugly. Do you really think when it's all said and done, TCU is going to be back in the college football playoffs? I don't. I think that was lightning in a bottle. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think there's anything on TCU's resume that shows that they're going to be able to do that again. I think we all kind of like, okay, that happened. That was cool. That ain't going to happen again. Why? Because none of us really believe that the foundation has been built at TCU for long-term success. Like just not long-term success. Lightning in a bottle, that happens. That happens every year. But what about year in and year out? The accumulation of talent that Sarkisian has is it's the better than anything I've seen since I've been covering the team since 2014. It clearly has got to be some of the best since 2009, clearly. And so for me, from a talent level standpoint, there's enough talent here that just on talent alone, that will overcome a lot of sins. That will overcome a lot of problems. That will overcome a lot of adversities when it's all said and done. Okay. And so when I go from a talent standpoint, then you're going to question like Sark, and that's where he is. Let me give you why I think there's some good reason to be optimistic about Sark. Sark added in Paul Chris, the former Wisconsin coach, as an offensive analyst. So one of the things I've been told that's been happening behind the scenes leading up to the season is that Paul Chris has been a guy that Sark has been able to lean on, that Sark has been able to get some advice from. And really, when he starts talking about second half adjustments and things to that effect, he's been a person that's been able to give a new set of ideas, new sets of thought process, new ways of thinking, right? And so you add in him having someone to kind of lean on, because that's kind of sometimes of issues with coaches is that who do you lean on? Like it's like anybody who's on the top. Who do you talk to? Like when they say that it's lonely on the top thing, who does he talk to in season? Who coaches talk to in season? You can't call up Nick Saban and ask for advice. I'm playing you. Like I can't. Hey Nick, you got some advice on how to defend your quarterbacks? Like that can't happen. So he's got someone that he can lean on with Chris. Okay, so you have that. You've got a staff that's been here. You got the continuity as well. You've had the player development, and I would say the player development aspect of it has been probably one of the biggest crimes as it relates to the University of Texas that I've seen. Hasn't been guys being developed. One of my famous sayings has always been, how many 5-stars does it take to beat TCU? Right? That's always been one of my sayings. How many 5-stars does it take to beat TCU? You know why? Because programs like TCU, Oklahoma State, they develop their guys. And the biggest problem with Texas is they haven't developed their guys. And so now that we know that you're seeing players develop, if you look at their bodies and you're seeing the players develop and then being smarter within the system, and the last thing, BLK Crypto, is I would say is this. is that you look at a team last season that didn't have a loss greater than 7 points, right? So if you factor that into the equation, no losses over that goes over that, then you tell yourself there's only one or two things and one or two plays. That's why it's easy to envision it. Now, I get it. There's some skepticism. I think there's PTSD that happens among the fan base where you say, like, how the hell, what the hell, how the hell is this even possible based off of the results? But sometimes those results, if you look at it from a 360 point of view, I hate when people say I'm going to do a 180 in life. By the way, people stop saying that. And when actually people say I'm going to do a 360 in life, you got to do a 180, it's not 360. I think BLK, that's exactly why there's optimism about the upcoming season. Okay, let's do this. Let's do a quick break, and after the break, it is Overreaction Monday with my main man, Jeff Ketchum. You do not want to miss it. By the way, continue to put your predictions in the Specs chat line. I want you to be on record as to what you think the season is going to be. I want you to screenshot it. So then when we come back to it after the season, I don't want anybody to tell me I predicted it and you can't prove it to me. So it has to be proven today, or else I will not entertain it. So get your predictions in the chat line right now. Let's go to a quick break, and Overreaction Monday is next.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best defensive playmakers for the Texas program over the last decade. I'm talking about edge rusher Joseph Ossai. Ossai was one of the best players to come out of Tom Herman's 2018 recruiting class, although he was a low 4-star prospect who only ranked number 31 in the state by Rivals.com. Not a single recruiting service had him ranked as an elite prospect or inside of a national top 125 list. When we look at Ossai's recruitment, it was pretty cut and dry fairly early on that there were 3 schools that stood out above the rest. From the summer of 2017 all the way into October and November, Ossai kept a top 3 of Texas, Texas A&M, and Notre Dame. Of the Longhorns, Ossai said that Todd Orlando and Oscar Giles used the following sales pitch on him. Quote, "They tell me I could be that Nashawn Hughes type of player. When I watch some of these close games that they've been in, I can place myself in that defense and see myself making the moves to finish those plays. I watch how I could impact the defense and picture helping some of those close games be wins." The battle eventually turned into a Texas versus Texas A&M battle, with Tom Herman's staff taking on a Jimbo Fisher staff that had just replaced Kevin Sumlin. In fact, the Aggies had been considered the heavy frontrunner for Ossai, but the dynamics of his recruitment changed the moment Sumlin was fired from Texas A&M. It was the opening that the Longhorns dearly needed and received. In fact, by the time January had rolled around, Orangebloods was reporting from an A&M source that the Longhorns had taken the lead for Ossai. On the last weekend before signing day, Ossai took a surprise official visit to Oregon, but it still turned out to be a battle between the Longhorns and Aggies all the way up until signing day, when he eventually chose the Longhorns.
Great job by Jeff Ketchum by putting in some new things, new flavor to the show. So I appreciate it. By the way, let's go ahead and bring in my main man, Jeff Ketchum, for Overreaction Monday. JK Ketch, how's my main man doing? How's my dog?
GK Ketch.
Yeah, GK. GK Ketch.
I'm good, man. Look, Liverpool was down to 10 men yesterday. They played 70 minutes with 10 men, and they scored 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to beat Newcastle. Man, I'm flying high coming in on a Monday. It is amazing how much better life is when your favorite teams win.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, it's game week, and Longhorn fans can get that dopamine hit starting Saturday against Rice. I hope everybody feels as good next Monday as I feel on this Monday.
You know what? It's been a while since you felt good on a Monday, Catch. It's been a hot minute because usually it's been like me, trying to entertain, like trying to be a comedian in front of like teenagers, right? Where the teenagers just looking at you like, or you ever try to make a joke to your kids and they just feel like you're not funny. So
look, to be fair, last weekend I had an Orangebloods live worker quit 10 minutes before he started somewhere else.
Well, there is that.
You were getting me like right at the wrong time because Liverpool won last weekend, but like, sometimes work is just stressful and demanding. And
yeah,
but when your teams win, work, schmirk. It doesn't matter that much. I'm in a good mood.
Okay, good. So real quick before we get into the topic at hand, I started off the show talking about this and about the channel. This morning, we had the debut of Horns Up. We clearly have the old-fashioned sports show that's going on right now, House Divided, with you and Chad Hastings from noon until 3. We've got Alex coming in at 3:30 with Football with Friends. And then tonight, the debut of OB Outsiders. I told Ketch, I told the audience, cat's out the bag as far as what we're trying to do with this channel. I think everyone can kind of figure it out by now. But just how excited are you about this? What we've been able to this week, as far as OB Live is concerned?
I'm pumped. Not only that, I have a conversation at 4:00 after my show today with another potential show partner / contributor that might be doing shows on Monday. I've got former Texas All-Americans knocking on the door, wanting to do shows with us during the season. On Saturday, you and I will do the post-game shows.
Yes.
As we've done now. This will be our 9th consecutive season. We did Facebook Live. We've done the gamut of places and means of doing shows. But we'll be back for season number 9 and started on Saturday for the first time ever in this market. And believe me, we'll be copied in like 5 minutes. We're going to have a game watch-along show. Chad Hastings and myself, every game this season for Texas and even some A&M games. The plan next week is to do the A&M Miami game as a watch-along and then follow that up with Texas and Alabama. Woo. And then the Texas post-game show from Tuscaloosa. It'll be like 10 hours of broadcasting. I'm absolutely pumped up about it. It's going to be a ton of fun. So, yeah, man, it is exciting days, exciting times here on Orangebloods Live.
There will be a question about bathroom breaks at some point, Ketch, as to like when does that occur on this watch along thing? That's a very long time, man.
Yeah, I mean, you take breaks when the games take breaks. We'll pop in that little Joseph Osai video that just debuted on the channel. By the way, I've already done like 20 of these things, and I'm doing more. Yeah. Guys, I appreciate the fact that you watch us all day long, and so that the recruiting flashbacks get old. But what are the expectations on that? That we have 5 new ones every day?
You're gonna run out of Longhorns. You'd be like, in 1944.
Well, and the video is one of the tricky things. So I was able to get that video. You mentioned it earlier here on the Old Fashioned. I got probably 8 hours worth of video transferred over from VHS to digital. So in just this week, we'll be adding a Chris Sims video. I'm working on a Derek Johnson video, a Cedric Benson video. Like, the videos will continue, and they will be big timers. And it'll include high school footage of these guys that people haven't seen in over 20 years. So when we ran that Corey Redding video less than an hour ago, that included video that was like 24 years old and high school footage that hadn't been seen in that long. So I hope you guys appreciate what we're doing with those videos. It's not like you can search in the YouTube window or Google it and find what we're producing on the videos. And I think they're fun.
Yeah. I can't wait for the videos. Like, he came back from the war, and then he decided he was going to play for the Longhorns, and then he re-enlisted. And
that'll be the Tom Landry recruiting video.
Ketch, today I've told everyone that today is prediction day. I've told everybody that they got to be like us, okay? Like, because we have to every year. We have to put our predictions out there for the public to see, for the public to consume, and then everybody gets a chance when the season's done to say, you guys got it right, or you guys were idiots, right? And so I've told everyone to get into the Specs chat and make sure they put their predictions in, screenshot it, so we can have the conversation after the screen. Because I told them I don't want to entertain anything after the season. If this team is like 12-0, you better say that today. Like, if this team goes 8-4, you better say it. If it's 9-2, 10-2, whatever, say that today. Like, you better say that today. So this is it. Ketch, I've already said my prediction, which is 10-2. I'm on the record for that. You talked about it prior. Sunday was the deadline for you to finally put in your last prediction. I want you to tell everybody what that prediction is, and let's get into the why.
I'm in such a good mood. I feel like you're asking me to reveal the truth about Santa Claus to all these people who are saying things like 11-1, 12-0, playoff. Desmond Howard over the weekend predicting the Longhorns in the playoff. I think Kurt Bowles of the Austin American-Statesman doing the exact same thing.
Uh-oh.
I've got the Longhorns at 9-3 in the Big 12 championship game. I haven't really given a prediction on that because it's hard to know exactly what that looks like, who they'll be playing. I don't have a good feel for, I think, the rest of the Big 12. But I've got them 9-3 in the Big 12 championship game. That could mean that they also win the Big 12 championship. If I guess I could say they're going to win the Big 12 championship and be 10-3. But I've just been focusing on the 12-game schedule. It's hard to be absolute about something that is only imaginary at this point with regards to that game that we either do or do not know that, they're going to play in.
So how did you talk yourself into that? Because I went through the whole 12
pretty easily, actually.
Okay.
Look, guys, this is Anwar asking me a question. So don't get upset at me. Don't act like I'm trying to pee in your Cheerios on the very opening Monday of the season. But the last time we saw this team play a game that counted, they were losing 27-10 with about 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter against Washington. You can give me, whatever, drop passes, and Quinn could have done this and that. It was 27-10 in the fourth quarter. And the game before that, Steve Sarkisian had to take the ball out of his quarterback's hands with about 15 minutes to go in the game. And that's not my subjective opinion. He literally talked to the media about this a couple of weeks ago about the Baylor game and how they didn't trust Quinn and they just ran the ball because they didn't quite believe in their quarterback. You go 2 games before that, the offense scored 3 points at home against TCU. And you go 2 weeks before that, they were leading 31-17 in Stillwater in the second half and blew that game. This is not a team coming off of a season that suggests that they're ready to be a playoff level team. This is a team that every other week did something that you just assume not happened. Lost the bowl game, lost to TCU, lost in Lubbock and Stillwater. It's a team with a coach that I don't quite trust yet. It's a team with a quarterback that I have no reason to trust other than offseason hyperbole that may be exactly on the money. But they haven't played any games, and he's 2 games removed from his coach not trusting him last season and taking the ball out of his hand. So I just think you add that. I just saw a deal on – it's funny. I was watching ESPN's Game Day this weekend. They said that the Big 12 was the deepest conference in the country.
Wow.
Today, I just retweeted a thing where it says that of all the top 25 teams, Texas has the 3rd toughest schedule of all the teams in the top 25. I just think that this is a team that's still learning how to be good. It's learning how to be consistently good. It's still learning how to be consistently good on the road. It's still learning how to beat really good teams. It's still got a quarterback that's growing up a little bit and may have some aches and pains on what I think is actually going to be a really good season for Quinn Ewers. And it has a coach that has to prove that inside all of these things, he can have the best season of his entire career as a head coach. It's asking a lot. I think this team has a chance to win the Big 12 championship. I think they're going to be in the Big 12, championship. But it's a tough schedule. It's got some tricky road games. It will be playing in a conference that doesn't want them to win. You can't trust Big 12 officials. You haven't been able to trust them since Charlie Strong was here. They've been getting screwed by Big 12 officials in games going back to 2014, 2015. You really got to go back to the days of Mac Brown when I think Texas were treated fairly by Big 12 officials. Every year, there are multiple games where it's like, hey, Texas had 14 penalties today. The other team had 1. How'd that happen? So I think it adds up to a lot. I think Texas will probably lose at Alabama, although I think, A, they can win that game, and B, I think it'll be a really good game. And then you've got the rest of the schedule, and I think there's some tricky games. I think any game this team goes on the road in the Big 12 this year is a tricky game. So I come up with 9-3. I know it's not rainbows and Christmas presents under the tree from Santa, but it is improvement. And it may very well end with a Big 12 championship and playing in a major bowl game. I just don't think they're elite of the elite yet. I think they may be a year away.
Yeah, well, the thing about 9-3 is, it's like, when you go back from any season, and teams will always talk about, we were only a couple of plays away from winning certain games. Then you always go in reverse, which you're always a couple of plays away from losing certain games. But in 9-3, and it's not pissing anyone's Cheerios, because that also means it's a couple of plays away from being 10-2, right? So that 9-3 puts you into that soft spot where 10-2 could potentially happen. 8-4 is disastrous, right? So, and 9-3 is still improvement, right? At the end of the day, it would still go from 5 to 8 to 9. So there's still upward mobility that's occurring. It wouldn't be that stardom that I think Texas fans are hoping for, but it still would be progress. Now, let me tell you why I go 10-2. So the reason why I go 10-2 probably is I probably have a little bit more, blind faith to a certain degree in Quinn than you do at this moment. Like I feel like that. And look, I stood on the table for him last year, and you asked me, did I think you have a QBR below 150? Right, if 150 was the number, was that the number we put out last year?
I don't remember, but he went under it with a bunch.
Yeah, but nonetheless, I said nope, you're crazy, and ended up being wrong. So there's still coming back to a little bit of blind faith as relates to Quinn. So I've drank the Kool-Aid a little bit, Ketch, on the thought process and belief that he has gotten better. This to me is if we're going to believe Sark to be the QB whisperer, as he has that name and moniker, and if he's telling us this guy's good, and I got the faith in him and I believe in him, then I want to say, all right, you're good. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to take your word on it, because so far, when it comes to players, you haven't necessarily been wrong about like the players that you believe in and the players that you feel like you've developed. Now he always has optimism about the season, Catch. Like he's always, even after losses last season, he still talked about competing for championships. So I get, so when he talks about that, I'm like, but when it comes about player development, I feel good. I feel good about the talent level, to feel good about the 2 deep. We'll get the depth chart at some point today, Catch. There's very few positions on this team that I feel like if someone has to miss the flu, that this team is screwed at any stretch of the imagination. So I feel good about that. I talked about before you came on, the addition of Paul Chris as a guy that Sark can lean on as relates to game planning. I feel like that could be an advantage to him, especially as a play call when people start asking about second half adjustments and things to that effect. And then I'm just going to take that whole abstract thing, Catch, which what I'm about to say is the non-tangible of anything that I've just said. But I'm going to go non-tangible, which is, look, we've seen other teams kind of rise from the dust, and I have reasons to believe that what TCU did is not sustainable. I don't believe TCU is going to be a team that gets back to where they were. I don't know if in our lifetime, but I do believe that Texas is being built from the ground up, where I think it is sustainable. So that's why I'm going to give them a little bit. That's why I go 10-2. I can't go 12-0 for obvious reasons. Can't go 11-1. That's a little bridge too far for me. 10-2 for me is a sweet spot. I think winning against Alabama is very feasible, even though I'm going to predict a loss there to be safe. And then we'll see what happens in the Big 12. But that to me is my 10-2 thoughts. Like, and by the way, this is like the you and I splitting of hairs things, that the thing that you always do. When you split the hairs of good. It's not a huge difference between 9-3 and 10-2.
I'm about to hit you with a rebuttal, but what you just said is exactly right. The difference is a coin flip, right? It is one of these 50-50 games going one way versus the other. That's a difference in our records. We both have them in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
And look, I think it's more likely than not that they win a Big 12 championship game than they lose it, because I think they should be. This is a team that should get better as the season goes along. It should. That didn't happen a year ago. I mean, you could almost make the case that their best performance was either the Oklahoma game in October or the Alabama game in September. But what I would say, Anwar, is this. Let's go back to the Washington game. Let's forget everything that's happened in this offseason. And let's go back to the last time this team actually played a football game where the outcome ended up on their record. When they lost to Washington late in December of last year, I went back and watched a little bit of the postgame show. Do you recall on that day whether or not you felt like this Texas football team was done learning the lessons and taking the steps that it needed to be a championship contender and some truly worthy of being in the top 10 in the country? Do you remember on that day how you felt watching that team, and whether or not you thought to yourself in a loss to Washington where they were losing 27-10 late, 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, whether or not you thought this team was done with its evolution?
From what I remember, the emotions of that game, I remember the emotions. I don't remember specifically what I said. I remember it was right around the time of my birthday, and I had spent about a week in San Antonio. And I just remember, if I got to spend my birthday week like doing something, I remember being a little bit frustrated with that thing. So I know how I am, especially after frustrating losses, and I get really ticked off. So I'm sure my emotions at that time was a guy that was like, this is some BS.
Well, I just think more than anything, the evolution wasn't done that night. When we get to week one, nothing that happened in that last game in December had us, and we swore to ourselves there was only so far we would go in the offseason with regards to predictions for the team based on what we had seen in the season. And I just feel like this team still has some growing up to do, that it still has to learn how to win, not just big games, but big games on the road. And then what do you do the week after a big game? This is not easy. This will be a schedule where every team on it will have the Texas game scheduled. You're going to get there's a lot of reasons why. I mean, this season in the Big 12, and it will be this way for Oklahoma too, everybody wants to leave a black eye on the Longhorns and the Sooners in their final game. And I do think the officials at some point will – there's just a lot of things that all add up. I think there will be at least a couple of games this season where Quinn Ewers has a bit of a stinker. Doesn't mean he's going to have a bad season. I'm actually predicting him to have a really good season. I'm predicting his quarterback efficiency rating to go up 23 points. I'm expecting him to throw just under 4,000 yards in 12 games. I think he throws more than 30 touchdowns in 12 games. And you look at those numbers and you think, well, God, if he's going to do that, how the hell are they ever going to lose game? Because there will be a couple of games mixed in where he won't play well. And what I don't know about this Texas team yet, because we sure as shit didn't see it against TCU at home, with 100,000 people ready to go ape crazy, ape shit crazy. And they couldn't score points. They scored 3 that night. The defense scored the other 7. Well, technically 6 into the special teams with the extra point. But I don't know that this team knows how to win yet without Quinn Ewers playing really, really well. And I do think there will be at least a couple of times this season where he struggles. He's still in his evolution of a quarterback. He's not done learning. He's not done evolving. He's not done with an occasional poor performance or two just because our timeline demands that it be so. So I actually think next year, with all of the departures to the NFL that we think that this team is going to take on, I actually think this is the year they learn some of these things. And my expectations are, even with a roster that will lose a lot at the top next year, I think and I hate to be the guy that says next year, but that offensive line in I don't think the offensive line is a team strength. In fact, I think the biggest weakness on the entire team is the interior of the offensive line. There's a reason why Alfred Collins has had his name mentioned and Vernon Broughton has had their names mentioned almost every single time Steve Sarkisian opens his mouth. And there's a reason why he's never said, who's having a badass camp? DJ Campbell, Jake Majors, Hayden Connor. There's a reason why these things exist. But I think you look ahead to next year and you get Kelvin Banks as a junior. You got all that 2022 recruiting class on the offensive line. They're now third-year players. I don't think the wide receiver position will skip a beat. In fact, they've got a bunch of young guys that I love. I think they'll go into the portal and get some guys. Anthony Hill will be a second-year guy. You're returning a lot on defense. I wrote about it in my 10 Thoughts on the Weekend. You could see a world next year where your secondary is Malik Muhammad, Terrence Brooks, Gavin Holmes at corner. You've got Derek Williams and, pick a safety. There will be a number of guys. You got Jelani McDonald, who could be your starting nickel next year, and he looks great after just 15 practices with this team in August. I really think this talent next year will go through the crucibles in 2023. They may even win the Big 12 championship, but they'll have some hard times too. And along the way, these young guys will learn how to win. They'll learn how to do these things that they haven't yet exhibited on the field in actual games. And I think Arch Manning may actually turn out to be better than Quinn Ewers when it's all said and done.
Okay. Okay. Too much. You can't. All right. There's that I was ready to address that. Then it was the second part of it. And then I got super chats. And so my mind's blown and we only got 30 minutes. So let's do the super chats first and pay the bills. Thank you guys again for hitting up the Specs chat line. We absolutely appreciate all the comments that are in there. Make sure you get there's 300 strong. So listen, I need you guys to hit that like button, hit subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. And please, in the chat, put down your season predictions. I want you to screenshot it. We're going to make sure you have you on the record. So when it's December and the season's over, don't come to me and say, hey, man, I predicted 12-0 when you never said anything today. So do it today. Jay Lee back here again. He goes, I was busy and did bad math. 9-4 with a Big 12 championship.
That would be bad.
Okay, yeah. Jay Lee, that's a bad scenario right there, Jay Lee. So 9-4 is okay, but then losing in the Big 12 champ. Because here's the thing, Jay Lee, if you lose in the Big 12 championship game, then you put the bowl game as a must-win. Because if you lose the bowl game, now you're talking about like 9-5. Here's the thing, like Jay, like at that point, 9-4, a loss. Guys are like, you know what? Time to go to the NFL. Like that, you're gonna have guys making their career decisions, and you ain't gonna like that. So, Jay Lee, I hear you. You don't want that. There was another one, Aaron. We had another one that came in. Paul. He predicted that Texas goes 12-0 if they beat Bama. Yes, he's with El Presidente. He's standing on the roof.
I hope he's right. I hope he's right.
12-0 would be great for business. But Paul,
I want Paul Anwar to go back and watch the Washington postgame show.
Now, to be fair,
no actual football games have been played since the Washington bowl game.
And to be fair, Xavier Worthy was playing with some sort of broken hand that may have explained the 3 drops that he had at that point. So there is that. I'm just, if we add in the Washington game, right? So And we still to this day aren't quite sure how healthy Quinn is, but he's healthy enough to play. We're still today, that. So just to be fair, what else do we have? Texas boy, been very active. Catch in the chat, in the super chat today. By the way,
boy is awesome.
Yeah, so he wants to know, to your point, when you start bringing up Washington from last season, he goes, was Washington not did Washington not have were they not a top 10 team with a top offense?
I don't know what Washington is. I think that they were not one of the two best teams in the Pac-12 last year. I think they were the third best team in the Pac-12. They return a lot. They're getting a lot of credit for beating Texas in the bowl game. Because I think here's what's happened, Anwar. People are wanting to put Texas in the top 10 or close to the top 10. But you can't put Texas in the top 10 and not have Washington. If you look at every poll, they've got Washington like one spot in front of Texas.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, oh, I can't put Texas in there if I don't put Washington in there because Washington kicked their butt. Washington will probably be one of the top 3 teams in the Pac-12 this year, but I don't know if they're one of the 2 best teams. I think they're a lot of fun. I'll watch a lot of Washington football. I know they start the year at the back end of the top 10, maybe 10th, depending on the poll you're looking at. I don't know if they're that good. I know that they beat Texas, and everybody's high on Texas, and that's why everybody has Washington that high. Wouldn't shock me if they go 9-3.
Okay, good. Aaron, are we done with the super chats at this moment? Okay, good. So, Catch, we are all caught up on the super chats. Let me ask you this. Let's do some more predictions. All right, is that cool?
Yeah.
Let me
give show, buddy.
Hey, okay, no, it's good. Well, I got about another 25 minutes left. This thing goes so fast. So our Mondays are just going to be like crazy rapid fire, unfortunately.
Dude, we're 90 minutes away from the first Monday press conference of the year. I've never been so excited to hear Steve Sarkisian speak in my entire life.
Do you think Sark is on time or not?
Oh, no. It'll be if we set the over and under at 11:15, what do you think? Ooh. There were a lot of weeks last year where it was like 11:25.
Yeah. First week, game week. Yeah, I'm gonna take the over. I'm gonna take there's too many things that are happening. Too many things happening at one time. 11 o'clock will not happen. I will take the over on Sark. By the way,
I'm gonna take the under.
Really?
Barely. I think he'll be as close to starting at 11 o'clock this week than next week and the week after. I mean, all bets are off. But for the very first one, I'll say like 11:07.
11:07. See, I don't know. There are. I won't say who, but there are reporters like before every Sark press conference who set the line on when Sark's going to show up. And they do that for every press conference. So you and I are just doing this for fun. But literally beforehand, someone will say, all right, here's the line. And then always see if it goes under or over. Usually it's the over, though. He probably wouldn't enjoy that.
Hey, if you get caught in traffic, it'll be the day that they're on time.
It's like one time when we had a media availability in training camp, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then instead of it going at 11, it's like, we're going to start at 10:30. I'm like, what? When does this ever happen?
That will not happen today.
No, it won't happen. Okay, so let's go to some other categories, all right? Because we can probably do a whole show on 10-2 versus 9-3, but I want to get to your other thoughts. Give me your thoughts on an offensive MVP for the season. If you had to think of that person, who in December are we saying that was the offensive MVP?
I think Xavier Worthy's going to bounce back, and I think he'll be a Biletnikoff finalist.
Ooh, okay. He's got to have a good quarterback for that to happen, right?
Again, I think Quinn Ewers is going to throw for about 3,900 yards and 34 touchdowns.
Okay, all right. So you got Worthy as your offensive MVP. For me, I'm not going to put Quinn in as my offense. I'm going to ride it till the wheels fall off.
I can appreciate that.
I'm gonna for anybody who ever thought. See, this is, you know what Catch is? This is how people thought I spoke about Tyrone Swoops back in the day. Like how I speak about Quinn.
No, Casey Thompson.
Well,
yeah, love Casey Thompson.
I did stand on the damn table for Casey Thompson. And I was good with Casey Catch up until he was like, we got in Nebraska, we got better NIL deals than Texas does. And I was like, oh, now you're doing the thing. Now you're just trying to agitate people and poke the bear. I'm like, don't do that, because now you're gonna have people rooting against you. And he did it, and I was like, oh, this is not gonna end well for Casey. And now, even now, Casey at FAU, like year 6, like I did stand on the table for Casey, and it's probably about the equivalent for Quinn, I would say. But I'm gonna stay with Quinn because, and James knows I love me some Charles Wright too. Like Charles Wright's my dude as well. And Catch, they have been giving me such a hard time in the chats about Charles Wright ever since I asked you if there was an opportunity for him to play if someone got the flu, and it has been a running joke within it, and now our Specs chat line. But I'm gonna get a Charles Wright jersey one day. Someone from the Charles Wright family is gonna send me a jersey. I'm gonna wear it on my show. But I'm gonna stay with Quinn. I think that if he does what he's going to do, I think the quarterback always gets the attention. He always gets the love. And I think that if he can make that transition and he ends up being that feel-good story that everyone loves, used to be at Ohio State, look at him now. And then it's like, look at Joe Burrow. He was at Ohio State. Look how great he's doing. Look at Quinn Ewers. Like, I think there's enough narratives for that to happen. So he's my offensive MVP. I'm going to put Texas Boy back up for the chat because he's got another one. I told you he's very active today. He must have got paid on Friday. Texas Boy got paid like last week of the month. And Texas Boy, like, I got some money to burn. So we appreciate you, Texas Boy. Nonetheless, Catch, buy or sell. No one will rub Sark. Goodness gracious.
Buy.
No one will rub Sark's nips while waiting to run out of the tunnel at all this season.
Hey, we talked about this when it happened, and I'm going to say it again. It don't matter how big or small a man is. Men don't like having their man boobs touched. No matter how big or small they are. Nobody wants another man like copping a feel on the boob, man. They just don't. And like what we learned about Sark is he'll get in that ass if you touch his man boobs. Like, don't do that out in public. Or you got to remember, he used to be a D1 athlete. People think of him as like an older coach now. He probably has some squabs because back in the day, he was probably the best athlete where he was from. You don't lose that muscle memory. He looked like he wanted to kick that dude's ass. Ain't nobody, no official in the Big 12 is doing that this year. They're going to keep their hands to themselves.
All right. So I asked you who your offensive MVP was. Who's your defensive MVP, Catch?
I mean, I think the obvious choice, sometimes don't get too cute with these. Jalen Ford is your returning All-American. He's the real only proven playmaker on this defense. When you think about what he had 4 interceptions last season, it seemed like every game he made the big defensive play. I worry that he will regress slightly to the mean. What does that mean, right? Well, it means maybe he doesn't have 4 interceptions this year. Maybe he has 2. Maybe the big stats go down slightly, although I certainly leave it in the realm of possibilities that they could go up. He's going to make a ton of tackles. He is their best player on defense.
Yeah, I went with Jalen Ford in my prediction column as well. To your point, sometimes you don't have to overthink it, and sometimes you don't have to go Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat. Like sometimes you just take the obvious choice. And to me, everything that he accomplished last year, you just continue to build on. I think he's kind of, the rock to be the most solid player on defense. I'm 100% with you. It's going to be maybe hard to have as many tackles as he did last year. Yeah. But nonetheless, he's probably still going to be in that range.
I think the tackles will be there. I wonder and worry slightly about the big plays, not because I don't think he's capable. He just had them in such abundance last year. I mean, it's not easy for a starting linebacker to get 4 interceptions in a season. And it all really came together for him. He actually he should have won some awards last year. He probably should have been a first-team level All-American instead of second or third team. He really was exceptional, and there were a few linebackers in the country that accumulated the big play, difference-making plays that he did.
All right, let me ask you 2 more questions, and we'll wrap it up, right? This was the harder one, I think. I think the one I'm going to ask you is the hardest of the MVPs. Who will be the freshman MVP prediction-wise when the season is done?
Anthony Hill.
Anthony Hill.
Because, yeah, I think when this season's over, there was a part of me that almost said Anthony Hill over Jalen Ford.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't because I have a working brain sometimes. But I think they're going to use Anthony Hill in a way that's going to make him a bit of a lightning rod on this team. I think he has a chance to be a big play, third down specialist type of guy. They don't have anybody else on this defense that they move around and put into places to create mismatches and to get defense on their heels a little bit. There's nobody else on the entire team that I think sources that I've talked to talk about the same way they talk about Anthony Hill. So I think by the end of the year, he could be the defense's best player.
Wait, now this is a fascinating thing for me because you have bought heavy in your CJ Baxter stock.
I think he'll be really good.
Okay, but you thought, hold. You had a belief that at some point CJ is probably going to start this season, correct?
Yeah.
So if he starts this season, doesn't he become like the freshman MVP when it's all said and done? If he takes over for a senior and has a season that you believe, I just want to know, like,
I don't think CJ Baxter is going to have 1,000 yards.
Okay.
And I think Anthony Hill may finish the season as the best player on an entire side of the field. This season won't end with me thinking Gary Baxter is one of the top 5 players on offense.
Okay. And Malik Muhammad doesn't get into – is Malik at least in your top 3?
Probably. You know, they're one wide receiver away from Jonte Cook potentially having his name in this discussion. And, you know, I think if there's anything – Xavier Worthy, one of the things that I think has to prove to NFL scouts is that he can stay healthy. You know, I think last year there were bumps and bruises, obviously the broken hand. He's such a slight guy. You know, they list him at 172, but that's got to be with rocks in his pocket. So, you know, if Xavier Worthy for some reason misses a game or 2 or 3, I think the door could open up for Jonte Cook and he could be in that position. But yeah, CJ Baxter is probably the right guy on offense. And I don't have any problem with anybody that thinks CJ Baxter will be the guy. I'm probably on a little bit of a limb with being so all in on Anthony Hill. But I remember Derek Johnson's freshman season at Texas back in 2001. They never started him. But they'd bring him on the field like the second or third play of the game. And it was just clear that by the end of the season, Texas had a special player and a guy that was their best player on defense, whether or not he started or not. And I kind of view Anthony Hill the same way. It will not surprise me if at the end of the season, Anthony Hill leads this team in sacks or is at least in the neighborhood of Barron Sorrell. Let's say 7 or 8, something like that. I think Anthony Hill has a chance to be freshman Big 12 newcomer of the year. And I think he'll be on a lot of national lists as well.
Okay, last question, Ketch, and then I'm going to run down to UT, and they'll be there front and center for Steve Sarkisian's press conference at 11 o'clock or 11:20, depending. Scheduled for 11. We'll see what happens when it's all said and done. You've got Texas at 9-3, so clearly you have them as the number 2 team in the championship game. Who's the other team that you believe is going to be in the Big 12 championship game?
Well, and I don't know I don't know that 7-2 puts Texas as the number 2 team. Look, and I said this a year ago, and give props to TCU for proving me wrong. And I'll say the same thing should anybody do it this year. There's a lot of parity in the Big 12. You know, the top 4 teams in the league are all ranked between 11 and 20 for the most part. I mean, TCU were probably – I guess I'll go with TCU. Here, TCU has – for every we've got this idea in our heads that everybody graduated from TCU and that all their best players are gone and that they'll somehow be a weak team. It's a team of 14 seniors on the Senior Bowl watch list. 3 of them are offensive linemen. 4 of them are in the secondary. They've added some impact transfers. You know, with like Texas, it'll come down to quarterback play. And if they don't get plus quarterback play, then they could be an 8-4 type of team, 7-5 if they really don't get good quarterback play. But if they do get good quarterback play, I think that's a team I think it'll be Texas versus TCU in the Big 12 championship game. It would not shock me if there are if both of those teams are 7-2 in conference play at the end of the year. It won't surprise me. And it wouldn't really even surprise me if there are 3 teams tied for first place at 7-2 at the end of the year. I don't think there's going to be an undefeated team. I'm coolish on the idea that somebody runs the Big 12 schedule and only loses once. So it could be a year where 7-2 and 6-3 are kind of jumbled at the top of the pack with as many teams as in the conference this year. I think you could have 4 or 5 teams that are between 7-2 and 6-3, which will make the last couple of games of the Big 12 schedule, that Texas Tech game that we're talking a lot about, that game will have a lot on the line. And not necessarily because of Texas Tech. They could be one of those teams on the line. But because I think the standings will be so jumbled together, that everybody's game will be big at the end. Everybody will need to win that last game to make sure they don't get left out.
Yeah, I'm going mine is K-State. And that's the one that I've decided to go with. You know, when had the guy on, you know, recently and talked about K-State and reminded me that, you know what, they're Will Howard is still there, you know, and he was very effective in his role. They lost some, but they do replace some deep on the offensive line. They feel good about what they have coming back on the defensive portion. And K-State is just one of those teams that, you know, that's kind of we don't talk about a lot, and they get ranked and they get respect, but it's just one of those Catch, you know, just for whatever reasons, usually sneaky good year in and year out. And I know Texas had some success against them last year, but you know they are the defending Big 12 champions, and so at that point, I've got to give them a little bit of their props. So I've got Texas in there, and I got Texas and K-State, and we'll see what happens from there. But that's kind of my prediction as far as that's concerned. Catch, the last thing I want to say is that Overreaction Monday brought to us by Richard and the Rogue Shop, one of our favorites. Didn't mention them in the beginning, but definitely need to mention them in the course for the Overreaction Monday. So yeah, go ahead and Aaron, when you get a chance to put that on the screen. Catch, tell everybody about Rogue and about those Rogue products.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I can say about Rogue Shop is that, Richard, if you're watching right now, tell me what I got to do to get a care package. Hook me up. Calgon, take me away. I need some Rogue products. Send me some carts. I will sit here and smoke on every show that I do and rep Rogue Shop. I love what they have. I love that people in the chat know that the birthday cake is my favorite. Or wedding, anything with cake. I'm still like a 7-year-old kid. If you put cake on the product, I'm going to get in it. So whether it's birthday cake, wedding cake, chocolate cake, I don't care. I love Rogue Shop. I talk a lot about the cartridges because they're my favorite, but my mom and other elderly people in my family have used the salve for their aches and pains on their joints, and it works. And like, you know, it's interesting when people who've been kind of anti Rogue-ish products their entire life because they were programmed to think that anything that could come out of the ground that people would smoke is bad, but when they use that salve and they get a good night's sleep and they wake up feeling better than they did when they went to bed, all they want is more at that point. And suddenly it's like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to do it. What if I get? Suddenly they're like, Jeff, can I get some more of that rub that I put on my bones? And it's like, absolutely. So there's so many reasons why the product is great. So many things that it can address: anxiety, all of the things that it's weird. Almost everything, it seems like, stress, all those things, aches and pains, all the bad stuff. Rogue can make that better. And if you could make all those things better, Anwar, this is where you and I come in, right? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Your life got better the moment you started using Rogue.
Yeah, you know what, Ketch? There was a thing that I learned, not ashamed to say that there's one point I've gone to counseling, right? And the thing that I learned in counseling was that, life is about your 1 to 10 scale, right? And so, that's like your anger, your anxiety, things to that effect. If you're rolling around at a 7, like that's where you at. It don't take long to get to a 10.
For real.
Like, that's how road rage happens, right? Like it's because someone's rolling around at a 7 and then you cut them off or something by accident, and all of a sudden they're flipping you off. They're wanting to pull you over the side of the road, so on and so forth. That's how that thing happens. That's how the anxiety goes when you're rolling around to that. If you start your day at like a 1 or 2, it's so much harder to jump to the 10. And so for me, the Rogue products has been that thing that gets me to get a good night of sleep, which it means a lot. It really does. It's not, it's not Cheech and Chong where you just like, trying to have a party, but get a good night of sleep and then wake up and you're at a 1, then all of a sudden you feel good. Like your whole day is so much better. And that's what Rogue has done.
And the cool thing about what Richard and his group do, they're like at their own farm. Like they grow and make their own products. It's amazing. It's amazing. I want to actually be adopted and live with Richard.
Yes.
Work on the farm. Teach me how to be.
Yeah. So anyway, make sure you hit rogueshop.com. And Cotton, we're going on that note, Cotton. That cake has gotten me into a whole lot of trouble, but that's a different show for a different day. That's a Ketch knows all about that. He knows all about a lot of my stories behind the scenes. So, all right, Ketch, let me get out of here. I've got to get to this, to Sark and the stuff, but he will have House Divided starting at 12 o'clock. Him and Chad Hastings, they will do their thing from 12 to 3, have a little bit of reaction to Sark, talk about the season that's upcoming for not only Texas A&M, but obviously your Texas Longhorns. 3:30, we've got Football with Friends. Alex Dunlap will be doing his thing from 3:30 to 5:30. Then we have the Outsiders that they start their show this, coming on multiple times a week. We're going to have them. And of course, rounding back around, Ketch has got some more things that are going that are in here. This thing is just getting started here on OB Live. Trust me, the show and the station and the programming that you see today is going to be so much different 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. What happens when we tell you we got shows on from 2 to 4 a.m. for those of you guys that are overseas? You never know. Those things may be happening. So stay tuned for OB Live. From my main man, Jeff Ketch, Aaron, who's doing the producing behind the scenes. Remember, Ketch is coming on in just a couple of hours, so do not go anywhere. I will be back tomorrow. Remember what I say, live each day like it's real last. One day it will be. Talk to you guys.